You've felt it before. That strange pull in your chest when she looks at you, the sudden thud of your heart, the dryness in your throat, the palms slick with sweat. It feels like magic, like fate, like the moment everything aligns. But what if it isn't real? What if the sensation you mistake for love is something else entirely? Not attraction, but manipulation. Not deliberate deception whispered into your ear, but something primal, something so subtle that you don't even know it's happening. These are psychological tricks, woven not with words but with silences, with glances, with presence, that shape your responses before you're even aware they've begun. And the worst part? You never see them coming. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This is exactly what happens when men find themselves spellbound by a woman. They think it's destiny. They think she's the one. But beneath those thoughts lie deeply buried impulse, wounds, and longings that turn her into a symbol rather than a person. You've seen it before. Friends, brothers, colleagues, men who poured their lives, their energy, their money, and their hearts into a woman who never truly cared. And yet they defend her. They say, "She's different, you don't understand." But you do, because she knew which strings to pull. And now, you're about to understand those strings. The first string is mystery. She doesn't need to say much. Maybe a glance, a half smile, a prolonged silence. It's not an accident. It's a mechanism. Mystery is power. Men project meaning onto silence. Your mind fills in the gaps, paints the picture. You don't see her. You see a reflection of your desire. A blank canvas becomes a goddess in your mind. A woman with no defined qualities becomes everything you've ever longed for. And she doesn't have to prove anything. You hand her the crown before she even opens her mouth. Evolution wired you for this. Our ancestors who chased mystery were more persistent, more obsessed. That uncertainty fires up the brain's reward system. The unknown makes your neurons hungry for answers, for closure. Dopamine surges. It's not love. It's not connection. It's addiction. And the worst part is you're addicted to your own illusion. She becomes a screen onto which you project your hopes, your dreams, your need to be seen and loved. And you keep chasing that screen, believing you're chasing her. This is why the mysterious woman trope appears in every myth, every film, every culture. From Helen of Troy to noir films, the object of obsession is rarely a person. It's a projection. And she knows it. Maybe not consciously, but she knows how to let you imagine. She lets you guess. She leaves room for fantasy. And in that empty space, you build the prison with your own hands. You furnish it with your fantasies, and then wonder why you can't walk away. Mystery morphs into something more dangerous when combined with beauty. The second trick is the weaponization of beauty, and it's one of the oldest forms of control. We don't talk enough about how beauty hijacks the male nervous system. One look and your breath shortens, your muscles tense, your logical mind goes quiet. That isn't a poetic metaphor, it's biology. The men who ignored beauty in ancient tribes didn't reproduce. The ones who pursued it, who were mesmerized by it, passed their DNA on. You carry that legacy. But beauty alone isn't the trick. The trick lies in how it's wielded. The dress that reveals just enough. The way she adjusts her hair before you look. The glance that lingers a second longer than necessary. These are cues. They're signals. She may not be consciously calculating them, but evolution already did. She's learned over years what draws eyes, what keeps attention. And when you notice her, when you look too long, say too much, fall too fast, she takes note. She may give you a little in return. A smile, a kind word, a laugh, and then she pulls back. That's the second half of the trap. Withdrawal. You got a taste. Now you want more. Your brain remembers the reward and aches for its return. She doesn't need to say no. She simply becomes distant. Your anxiety spikes. You double down. More compliments, more texts, more effort. And all she did was vanish for a moment. This is conditioning. You're being trained, like a dog expecting treats. The difference is, the treats are never guaranteed. That's what keeps you hooked. And here's the part that stings. She may not even be doing this with cruel intentions. For many women, this is instinctual. They've grown up understanding, often subconsciously, that attention is power. That beauty can be monetized, idealized, worshipped. That silence can be louder than speech. And once she knows she has your attention, she controls the tempo. She gives a little. She takes a little. And you dance to her rhythm, not your own. Over time, you lose focus on your path, your goals, your purpose, until she becomes the mission. But mystery and beauty only set the stage. The third trick cuts deeper. It's the test. This isn't about seduction anymore. This is about value. Every man has experienced it. The subtle jab wrapped in humor, the sudden coldness after showing emotion, the shift in tone when you appear too eager. These are not random. These are tests. She is watching, probing, studying. She's looking for cracks in your armor. And when she finds one, she applies pressure. Not to destroy you, though that might happen, but to measure you. What kind of man are you? That's the real question. Not what job you have, not how much you earn, but how do you respond under emotional duress? Can you keep your center? Do you crumble when her approval is withdrawn? Do you flinch when she mentions another man, or do you stay composed? She may not be thinking this through analytically, but her instincts are ancient. They push her to test, to observe, to filter. And most men fail. They bend, plead, justify. They reshape themselves to win her back. And in doing so, they lose themselves. Women don't desire weakness. They don't want a man who shifts with every breeze. They want to feel the weight of a man who stands firm. And so, the tests continue. Even if you pass one, another will come. Not out of malice, but because feminine energy searches for the edges of masculine structure. It wants to know, how far can I push? Will he hold? Will he remain unmoved? The moment you waver, the illusion crumbles. And suddenly, you're just another man who failed to hold the line. And this is the brutal truth. Many men are not broken by women. They're broken by their own need for validation. She doesn't make you weak. She finds the weakness that already exists and exposes it. That insecurity, that hunger for approval, that silent hope that her gaze will make you feel worthy. That is your Achilles heel. And once it's discovered, the spiral begins. You perform, you pursue, you pine. She watches, evaluates, withdraws. And the game continues. That desire to prove your worth, to be enough for her, opens the door to the fourth trick. Emotional intimacy, or more accurately, the illusion of it. It begins softly. Late-night conversations, shared secrets, the tremble in her voice as she opens up about past pain. You listen, captivated. You think, she's showing me her soul. It feels rare, sacred, powerful. But what if it's not? What if it's a performance, intentional or not, designed to make you feel chosen? Emotional intimacy can be a weapon, one of the most effective, because it doesn't touch your lust or ego. It grips your heart. When she tells you about her wounds, you don't just hear pain. You see an invitation to protect, to save, to be the man who finally understands her. You step into a role, one you were never meant to fill, the protector, the healer, the savior. You think you matter because she cried, because she whispered the story of her childhood. But here's the hidden danger. This might not be real connection. This might be strategic vulnerability. She shows just enough pain to make you lean in, but never enough to truly let you in. And as you share more, your own fears, your own past, your dreams, you think the bond is deepening. But in truth, you're entangling yourself in a web spun not of authenticity, but of projection. You're no longer responding to her. You're responding to the role you've built in your mind. You're not in love with her. You're in love with the feeling of being needed, of being essential. And when she pulls away, when she decides you've served your emotional purpose, you're left devastated. Not because she lied, but because you believed. Freud called this transference. The mind's tendency to replay unresolved stories from childhood and project them onto others in adulthood. You think she's your soulmate, your mirror, your salvation. But she might just be the echo of a wound you've never healed. You try to save her, believing you're healing her scars. But the truth is, you're trying to heal your own through her. And that's where the illusion becomes lethal, because your identity becomes tied to her recognition, her approval, her affection. When she leaves, and often she does, you're not just heartbroken. You're shattered. You gave everything, your time, your trust, your secrets. You invested in the fantasy that if you just loved hard enough, it would be enough. But it never was, because she wasn't looking for a savior. She was looking for control, even if she didn't know it. Because emotional manipulation isn't always malicious. Sometimes it's survival. Sometimes it's what she learned. But whether conscious or instinctive, the trap closes just the same. The fourth trick isn't physical. It's not about lust. It's about hijacking your identity. And once you've wrapped your sense of worth around her acceptance, you've already lost. That's when she becomes your purpose. And when she disappears, so does your meaning. That is why men spiral. That is why they stop eating, stop sleeping, stop living. Not because she was special, but because they made her everything. But even this, even emotional enslavement, pales in comparison to the final trick. Because the last trick doesn't just manipulate your present, it hijacks your future. It promises eternity. Salvation. Completion. This is the most devastating lie, because it speaks to your soul, not your ego, not your biology, but the deepest ache in you, the longing for wholeness, the fantasy that somewhere out there is a woman who will make everything right. Every story, every movie, every cultural myth has echoed this. The princess who redeems the knight, the muse who inspires the broken man, the queen who makes the king worthy. And so, when a woman whispers, "You're the only one who understands me," you believe. When she says, "We're meant to be," you surrender. When she offers the illusion of forever, you abandon reason. You give her your future before she's earned your present. And if she leaves, you don't just lose a relationship. You lose your identity. Because she became your mission. She became your meaning. And without her, you feel like nothing. This is the trick that ruins lives. That leads men into depression, bankruptcy, addiction. This is the illusion that topples kings, destroys warriors, silences artists. Not because of lust, not even because of love, but because of false salvation. The belief that through her, you will be healed. Through her, you will be made whole. But no one else can do that for you. That's the brutal revelation. No woman was ever meant to save you. She can support, she can inspire, but she cannot complete you. That is the work only you can do. And that's the fifth trick, the most powerful, the most poisonous, the whisper that says, "If you have me, everything will be okay." But the man who believes that whisper is already lost, because he has given away his abundancy, his center, his essence, and in return he receives a fleeting illusion, a dream wrapped in skin. And when that dream dissolves, as it always does, he is left with nothing but ashes. But not you. You're seeing now. The fog is lifting. The 5 tricks, mystery, beauty, testing, intimacy, salvation, no longer operate in the dark. You've dragged them into the light. And the truth is, these tricks only work on the man who is asleep, who is lost in his own illusions, who has not faced himself. That is why they work so well, because they don't come from her. They come from you, from the shadows of your psyche, from the parts of yourself you refuse to confront. The real battle was never with her. It was with your projection of her, your longing, your wound, your story. She was just the screen, the canvas, the symbol. And that's the tragedy of it. That men spend their lives chasing women, thinking they are chasing love, when they are really running toward a reflection of their own unmet needs. Carl Jung taught that what you do not bring to consciousness will rule your life, and you will call it fate. This is fate, then, a loop of pain and fantasy, repeating until you break it. Because when you are whole, you no longer seek completion. You are no longer seduced by illusions. You see beauty and admire it, but you do not bow to it. You experience intimacy, but do not mistake it for salvation. You recognize testing, but do not lose your center. You witness mystery, but do not project your dreams onto it. And most of all, you do not anchor your identity to another person's presence. That is power. That is freedom. And women, whether they admit it or not, are drawn to that power, to the man who stands firm, who needs nothing, who gives from abundance, not lack, who loves but does not cling, who sees clearly and still chooses connection. This man cannot be manipulated, cannot be controlled, cannot be broken by withdrawal or silence or disappointment, because he has faced himself. He has passed through the fire of illusion. He has become sovereign. That man is rare. He is feared. He is revered. And he does not need a woman to be whole. Ironically, that is why women crave him. Because he is the anchor, the mountain, the one whose love is freely given, not earned through games. And when she tries to test him, he doesn't react. He sees through it. When she offers beauty, he smiles, but his soul does not bend. When she withdraws affection, he does not chase. He simply continues on his path. That is mastery, and mastery begins with awareness. Not resentment, not revenge, not bitterness, but truth. Seeing things as they are, seeing her as she is, not as a goddess, not as a villain, but as human, flawed, beautiful, capable of both light and shadow, just like you. And from that place of clarity, of grounded self-respect, you choose how to engage. You choose your boundaries. You choose your mission. And no matter what she does, she cannot shake you from it. This is the path few men take. It is not easy. It demands you let go of your stories, your fantasies, your illusions. It demands you confront your pain, your insecurity, your fear. It demands you grow. But in return, it gives you everything. Strength, peace, purpose, and yes, love. Real love. Not dependency, not addiction, but conscious, powerful connection between two whole people. That is the only love that lasts. Most men will never find it. They will chase ghosts. They will worship shadow. They will fall for beauty, mistake it for meaning, and die with their song unsung. But you've seen the truth now. You've faced the 5 tricks. You've named the illusions. And that makes you dangerous. That makes you powerful. Because the man who sees clearly cannot be deceived. He cannot be caged. He cannot be used. He becomes the chooser, not the chosen. Carl Jung wrote, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens." You've looked inside, and what you found wasn't weakness. It was strength. It was clarity. It was freedom. The freedom to walk away. The freedom to stay grounded. The freedom to love without losing yourself. That is rare. That is holy. That is the path of the awakened man. And let's be honest, the world needs you. Not another man hypnotized by lust. Not another man lost in fantasies. Not another man who collapses when she leaves. But a man who leads, who gives, who protects, who creates. Not from need, but from purpose. That is the legacy. That is the antidote to the chaos. Because women don't need more slaves. They need more kings. Not tyrants, not boys pretending to be men, but kings, whole, present, awake. So remember this, she is not your purpose. She is not your salvation. She is not your mirror. She is a person, flesh and blood. And you are not here to worship her. You are here to know yourself, to master your impulses, to build something worthy of who you truly are. That's the journey. That's the battle. And that's the victory waiting for you on the other side of every illusion. You've been shown the 5 psychological tricks. You've walked through the fires of projection and emerged untouched. Now you know. Now you see. And with that vision, you can finally live, not chasing, not performing, not collapsing, but living, with power, with direction, with truth. That is the way forward. And when you encounter beauty, you'll smile. When you encounter mystery, you'll observe. When you are tested, you'll stand firm. When offered false intimacy, you'll see the strings. When promised forever, you'll nod and keep walking your path. Because you no longer need saving. You are already free. That is the end of illusion. That is the beginning of mastery.